And you know what time it is? It's time for KP's Video News. KP's Video News, y'all. KP's Video News, y'all. KP's Video News, y'all. That's right, it's time for KP's Video News. And I'm coming up with a different type of news today. And it's a story that's near and dear to my heart. The crowd cheers as Charlottesville takes down the statue of a Confederate soldier. 12 alarm fire here. Engineers in Charlottesville, Virginia worked to remove a 900-pound Confederate statue today, a monument of symbolic reckoning in the university town that was rocked by a white supremacist march in 2017. The statue taken down was not the one of Robert E. Lee, which extremists said they were defending in clashes which led to the murder of a counter-protester. Instead, Charlottesville removed a bronze figure of a Confederate soldier known as At Ready that has stood for 111 years outside the Albemarle County Courthouse. Around 100 people cheered from behind barricades as bronze plaques were taken off the sides of the monument and a cannon was removed. This is a magnificent moment, community organizers Don Gather, 61, stated. Much of the racial tension, strife, and protest we're seeing across the country emanates from right here in Charlottesville, but now we're moving the needle in a positive way. The DC dunce provoked outrage in 2017 when he said there were very fine people of both sides in clashes, in which Heather Heyer, 32 years old, was killed when a right-wing extremist drove his car into a crowd and murdered her. Statues to leaders of generals and the Confederacy which fought and lost the American Civil War in an attempt to maintain slavery have returned to the news this year amid nationwide protests over racism and police brutality stemming from the killing of George Floyd by Minneapolis officers in May. In Charlottesville, news reports said armed individuals and militia groups have made periodic patrols around Confederate monuments. Albemarle is the first locality to use a process for removing statues that was approved by the state's General Assembly, but activists have said they're disappointed that At Ready will be re-erected somewhere else. We feel it's basically toxic waste disposal in another community. In Richmond, the state capitol, protesters removed the statue of Jefferson Davis, president of Confederacy from 1861 to 1865, and the Democratic mayor ordered another 11 memorials taken down. Saturday's removal of Charlottesville came after county supervisors voted on the matter. Larger statues of Lee and Stonewall Jackson and other Confederate generals remain in place. Supporters who argue they are no more than memorials to war veterans have filed suit to save them. The cities argue that the monuments put up, like many such statues decades after the Civil War, were intended to and did send messages of intimidation, exclusion, and hostility to the African Americans. The issue of whether the statues were part of a regime of city-sanctioned segregation is headed to the state Supreme Court. So I'm going to follow that case to see if they're going to take those other ones down. But that's a step. That's one step. Okay. Florida Supreme Court blocks Governor Ron DeSantis' pick to join the court and said he must select a new nominee because the woman he first chose to fill a vacancy is constitutionally ineligible to serve. The court issued a Friday ruling nullifying the appointment of Judge Renata Francis because she fell short of the 10-year mandate for someone to be admitted to the Florida bar before they are eligible in a position on the High Court. Francis was admitted to the Florida bar on September 24th, 2010, making her tenure with the bar several months short of the admittance requirement for the Florida Supreme Court under the state law. While Francis' nomination was a win for black lawmakers who had pressed DeSantis to add an African American to the bench. Critics pointed to the timing of her picking to say she would still not be permitted on the court. And the Constitution's 10-year bar membership requirement and 60-day appointment deadline are bright-line textual mandates that impose rules rather than standards and prioritize certainty over discretion. The court ruled, we hold that the Constitution requires the governor immediately to appoint and commission a constitutionally eligible nominee from the 7 remaining candidates already certified by the Judicial Nominating Commission. DeSantis has until this Monday, to appoint another judge to fill the vacancy that would have gone to Francis. The spot first opened up with the retirement of Justice Robert Luck. Governors in the Sunshine State are mandated to fill Supreme Court vacancies from a list given to them by the Supreme Court Judicial Nominating Commission, meaning DeSantis will have to have his picks narrowed to those from the original list, which has approved to him earlier this year before Francis' nomination hit his roadblocks. The effort to block Francis from joining the court was brought by State Representative Geraldine Thompson. She had initially requested a new list be crafted for DeSantis, but amended her petition to fit the court's ruling from 2 weeks ago that first determined that the governor overstepped his authority in appointing Francis. My motivation was to protect the independence, the autonomy, and the confidence that people have in our judiciary, Thompson told the press. And so this is basically what this story is in a nutshell, was that you had a black woman, Geraldine, a state representative, Geraldine Thompson, which basically filed a motion to keep another black woman from getting the nomination to be nominated to the Supreme Court of the state of Florida. And she basically, once she presented that meant Renata Francis would not be eligible to become the Supreme Court nominee. So, black on black crime, folks. That's all it is. It's black on black haters out there. You got to watch them. You got to watch all these uncles out here. You got to keep your eyes on these uncles and these Aunt Sarahs out here, because, see, they're doing a bunch of unnecessary nonsense. And, wow, the unemployment benefits program has issues with fraud and math. 2 weeks ago, shortly after she advertised an apartment for rent in the Bay Area, Barbara Lamb found 5 envelopes from the state's unemployment office in the building's communal mail slot. They kept coming day after day until a stack of more than 30 piled up. 30 of them just piled up. And they kept coming day after day until a stack of more than bulging notices of benefit approvals, questionnaires about job status, and debit cards with money. They could barely get them through the mail slot, they were so thick, she said. But Ms. Lamb had not applied for benefits and had never heard of the people the envelopes were sent. Fearing the address of the vacant unit was being used as part of a fraud scam to collect the money, she contacted the FBI. California is at the center of increasing concerns about extensive fraud in federal programs to push unemployment benefits to freelancers, part-timers, and others lacking a safety net in the coronavirus pandemic. At the same time, there's a growing evidence of problems keeping track of how many people are being paid through the program. The Labor Department reports about 15 million claims for benefits nationwide. A comparison of state and federal records suggests that total may overstate the number of recipients by 5 million or more. If the number of people getting unemployment benefits is lower than the official reported, it could affect thinking about the scale of the pandemic's economic impact. In addition, detainer fraud could undermine support for the program, and efforts to combat abuses may be harder for legitimate applicants to collect benefits which are distributed by the states. So those figures imply that nearly 7 million people are collecting pandemic unemployment insurance benefits in California alone, far more than this population would suggest. The state's own data suggests the number may be less than 2 million. Experts on the unemployment system say such discrepancies seem to reflect multiple counting as states rushed out payments. But a large and a surge in new claims in California, where they have risen to more than 400,000 a week, twice the level in August, is attributed not to accounting but to fraud. We do suspect that a big part of the unusual recent rise in the public unemployment claims is linked to fraud. And she said the state was investigating unscrupulous attacks, exploiting identity theft, and vulnerabilities in the system. Pandemic unemployment assistance is meant to provide benefits to self-employed, independent contractors, gig workers, part-timers, and other ordinary ineligible for state unemployment insurance, set to last through the end of the year. It was a major element of the CARES Act, which economists widely agree has kept the country from far greater economic calamity. According to the Department of Labor, $47 billion in pandemic unemployment benefits have been paid so far, and fraud is not uncommon in hastily assembled disaster programs, including the Paycheck Protection Program, the component of the CARES Act that provided forgivable loans to small businesses to help weather the pandemic without layoffs. But signs of trouble with the pandemic unemployment assistance program have surfaced for months, and people who did not file claims, including the governor of Arkansas, found benefits issued in their names. A growing number of states have signaled that the problems with the program go beyond the routine. And it's so, it's like, like they said, it's crazy. And said, in the meantime, the mail keeps coming. Miss Lamb, whose East Bay rental unit had been inundated with envelopes, rubber banded them into neat stacks Thursday to send them back to the state unemployment office. She said she had given the 5 addressees names to the FBI, and on Friday, two more envelopes arrived from the state bearing new names. So it's like, boy, this lady been getting money after money after money sent to her house. Crazy. And so, on with this, financial situation, you got bankruptcy filings are mounting up. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The pandemic recession plunged dozens of large companies into bankruptcy this summer. Countless more are on the way. Brooks Brothers, Hertz, California Pizza Kitchen, Chuck E. Cheese are among mounting number of corporate casualties during the health crisis. And that's just a sampling of the Chapter 11 filings since the start of summer. Despite unparalleled aid from the Federal Reserve and Congress, large company bankruptcy spiked 244% in July and August from the same period in 2019, according to the research. And some companies like 118-year-old J.C. Penney have found buyers to save the business and emerge from bankruptcies. Others, like department stores Lord & Taylor and Century 21, are shutting down completely. Wow, Century 21 is shutting down. The flurry of large bankruptcy filings is another reminder that despite the recovery on Wall Street, and I keep telling people this, I keep telling you this, Wall Street and the economy of the United States, those are two entirely different things. Wall Street, those are investments. But the economy, where you got workers, the working class, and the amount of money that people spend, all the people that are unemployed, that don't have jobs, and all the businesses that are folding, that's something entirely different. And why people always look at Wall Street thinking that, well, Wall Street's doing good, so the economy must be doing good. That is not true. That's definitely not true. So, you got to rethink your economics interpretations. So they said there's a lot of companies that are hurting, and the pandemic has dealt a lasting blow to countless companies, workers, and shareholders. Large company bankruptcies are up 120%. A wide range of companies have filed for bankruptcy in recent months, including Chesapeake Energy, Upscale Kitchenware, Cirque du Soleil. Not surprisingly, some sectors hit hardest by the pandemic are seeing the biggest spikes in bankruptcy filings. For instance, aviation bankruptcy filings up 110% on an annualized basis, while oil and gas filings have climbed 45%. And unfortunately, bankruptcy watchers believe this may be just the tip of the iceberg. It hasn't even reached this height yet. That will come once the government stops aid packages, said Acosta. So like I said, the aid packages that they're giving to the people and to these small businesses and companies, when that aid package money runs out, this whole bubble is going to pop. And at the end of August, bankruptcy filings by large companies defined as those with at least $500 million in liabilities had surged 120% year over year, according to Jeffries. That includes a record 34 filings in May and the June period. Some small businesses can't even afford to go bankrupt. However, it's important to note that the number of bankruptcies among the companies, small, medium, and large, has not surged, at least not yet. The total bankruptcy count for 2020 is down 14% from the last year, but that's likely because there have been fewer bankruptcy filings by small companies and the ones with the fewest resources on hand during the crisis. We expect this disparity may be due to inadequate cash liquidity on hand for bankruptcy lawyers and retainers. And in other words, these companies literally can't afford to go bankrupt. Other factors behind the death of small business bankruptcy cited that forbearance programs offered by major banks and government assistance, such as payroll protection programs, delayed the filings. But those relief programs will expire eventually, and reorganization costs money. Some small businesses figure, until someone starts taking my stuff away, I'll just keep going. And struggling businesses need to go through bankruptcy, must pay for an attorney to go to court and compile a reorganization plan. You can't use PPP funds to file for bankruptcy. So, and banks prepare for loans to go bust. So the investment bank pointed to the fact that senior loan officers at banks indicated a July Federal Reserve survey they would tighten lending standards that tend to be strongly correlated with credit losses. Banks are bracing for a wave of defaults. Profits at major banks, including J.P. Morgan Chase, Citigroup, and Bank of America, plunged during the second quarter, and as they set aside tens of billions of dollars to cover credit losses. High-risk commercial loans, 14% of the total loans of both bank and Fifth Third Bank Corp., the highest percentage among large-cap banks listed. These loans make up 10% or more of the loans at Wells Fargo, Truist Financial, U.S. Bank Corp., and Key Corp. It's easy to see how bankruptcy filings would be much higher without the unprecedented support from the government. The federal stimulus package provided direct aid to consumers, forgivable loans to small businesses, and tens of billions of dollars to besiege airlines. The Federal Reserve slashed interest rates to zero and pumped trillions of dollars. So this is what I'm saying. The federal government pumped trillions of dollars into the financial system to unlock frozen credit markets. The Fed even started buying corporate debt, including junk bonds, for the first time ever. The avalanche of aid flung credit markets back wide open. Companies like Carnival said they were struggling to raise money, were suddenly able to borrow on reasonable terms. U.S. companies sold more than $40 billion of junk bonds in August alone, more than quadruple the amount of the same period 2019. So the default rate is set to go higher. People will not be able to pay their debt. So, and the uncertain environment on everything from the economy and the health crisis to the election will only make it harder for struggling companies to raise cash. It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. So, yep, Trump and his buddies, they decided, yeah, well, we're going to push money, put money there, put money here, put money there, put money there, put money there. And those are just Band-Aids. Those are just temporary Band-Aids. And all of these Band-Aids are getting ready to come off. And when they come off, you're talking about a situation that's going to be worse, way worse than 1929. So Trump has got to go. And all the people that have been backing him with all this garbage that he's been trying to pull, they have all got to go. They have got to go. And it's, that's just where we at right now. That's where we are right now. The government has $3 trillion worth of debt because they gave a $3 trillion tax break to the rich. So those people are no longer paying that money into the system. So therefore, the system has a $3 trillion deficit of tax money that is not coming in from the rich any longer. That money is not coming in from the middle class and the working poor because those people are out of work. So the country's getting ready to go belly up. It's getting ready to go bust. And like I said, not to mention all the things that President Obama put in place while he was in office to fight all the debt and everything that happened when George Bush was president. Donald Trump, the DC dunce, came in with his little thing, signing stuff. Yeah, I'm getting rid of that. I'm getting rid of that. I'm getting rid of that. He got rid of everything that Obama did that got the economy back in place, and he has not replaced any of those things with anything else. All he did was just get rid of what Obama did, and he never replaced that stuff with anything. So mark my words, all of this stuff is going to come back, and it's going to come back, and it's all Donald Trump's fault for so busy and so focused on trying to erase the legacy of Barack Obama as president that he's basically destroying the country and creating chaos, confusion, unemployment, homelessness, death from the coronavirus. Oh man, the list is just way, way, way too long. I don't see how anybody in their right mind could even think about voting for Donald Trump to put him back in office out of all the hell that this country has been through. We can't. There's like over 500 countries we can't even go to right now because we're barred and banned from going to those countries because of the pandemic situation. And it's bad. We're in bad shape. There have been protests from the very first day he got inaugurated. There have been protests not only in the United States but worldwide protests. Worldwide protests. They had the biggest protest ever held the day of the inauguration with the Women's March in Washington, D.C., where you had, 1 million women showed up to protest against Donald Trump. So, all the stuff that you see going on right now, they're trying to blame everything on Black Lives Matter, but that's not the case because people have been protesting him since the very first day that he took office. So wake up, people. Don't listen to the lies. Do your research and do your homework, and you'll find out what I'm saying is true.
Right. KP's Video News, y'all.
Peace.